That sounds good, dude. Yeah, so the other thing I was talking about is I've said this for a while now, that G2 and NRG are pretty much like the same team in like similarities, but I've got more to it now as well that backs it. Um, so to me, and I like try to explain this in detail a long time ago, um, and make sure someone like tags this in the in the post or like makes a clip of this so I can just link it to all the people who are asking. Um, but I talked about for a while ago about how G2 and Energy are very, very similar. And I had to like break it down to like a further extent. And the way that it usually works out is that so G2 and Energy both have like the core like the fundamentals of what I think you need in a really good team. And there's obviously diversity to that, and it's subjective in certain ways. And there's certain things that you can do that change this up. But to me, primarily in a really good team, you need two really like strong offensive like midfield players, players that are good with aggression, that can pass, that can set each other up, that can shoot, etc. And then you need one person on defense who's really really good, just all around, whether it be mechanically, whether it be like just someone you can rely on no matter the situation. What's up, D-Rec? How you doing, man? Um, Kronovi is a player like that. Cookser is a player like that. Torment's a player like that. Garrett G is now that player. And I'm going to talk about energy first and then talk about how G2 also applies the same role and the reason why G2, in my opinion, doesn't show it as much, but why they have potential to be better. Okay? So for me, Energy was a team that brought on Garrett, and it was a perfect situation because they were looking for someone that was going to be a striker that could replace Sad Jr. up front. In Season 2, the meta was more so like put on a bunch of pressure, have one guy sit back, kind of take care of things, and it'll all be okay. Um, but the way that things have shifted is that you are basically looking for someone on your team to enable you that allows you to play a little bit more aggressive because offense does favor because people just can't save shots because of how accurate shit has got. Mystic is another good example too. Yeah, Morgan. Mystic's a good addition for them. I think it works better than Greasy for that reason alone. Mystic's actually mechanically nuts, and he does a lot of things. So you could even add flip side on this conversation. Any top tier teams nowadays do this. But Garrett came in as a striker because that's what he did for Exodus and Orbit. He basically sat upfield, waited for a pass, and then would hit these crazy angles that were really, really difficult to do. And as time progressed, what Energy had been working on for a long time is that Garrett was going to transition into Fireburner spot and allow Fireburner to move up front because his 50-50s are bar none some of the best in the world. Very consistent, his positioning is excellent, all this other kind of stuff. But the reason why I think G2 is better is because G2 has better mechanics all around on their players. Like Rizzo is more mechanically sound than Fireworks, in my opinion. They're both really consistent players. Their positioning is pretty solid. It's just Rizzo, I think, has a little bit more control of the air and all that other kind of stuff, which is important. So they take Garrett and they bring him back on defense. And the nice thing about Garrett is no matter the situation, if Garrett is on defense, he's going to be able to buy their team time. He's going to make a touch. He's going to be able to clear it. He's going to be able to do something that allows the two people on his offense, in this case Jacob and Fireburner, who are overly aggressive, who don't have to rotate past the midfield, to boost an eye, apply pressure, to get in the face of this other team, while Garrett just sits back and surveys the field. And if it gets past those two players, Garrett can now rotate in, put it back in, the other two can rotate out, get their stuff, and then they move forward on that two-man aggression again with an attack. And players in Europe, like Mocket, the reason why Mocket, I think, is getting suffocated so hard. Yeah, Fireburner, my bad, Vanderput. The reason why Mocket's getting hit so hard is because they're waiting for all three to forward aggress. And their forward aggression with all three is really strong, but it's not a constant cycle. It's like there's a break period. And when Energy does it, there is no break. It's just nonstop. And you can see that in the way they support. They only average like in Dreamhack, they only allowed like a goal, maybe a goal and a half per game, and they were averaging 3 goals per game. Because their midfield defense, which we always talk about, or their midfield offense, I guess you can say in this case, everything is stopped at the midfield because you have Jacob and Fireburner just rotating like crazy to keep applying this pressure. And if it does get past those two, Garrett's already there waiting, and he puts it right back in. And by that time, the other two can rotate mid or go back, get boost, and come back in again. And they just keep this constant cycle going. And they're allowed to do that because of what Garrett really does for this team, is he applies this non-stop pressure by just being patient. He sits there, he waits for it, he makes sure he's in a good position, And if they do get a good clear with multiple players being involved, they now have to go and get boost or do something on the opposite side. And Jacob or Garrett or whoever now has the ability to buy time for the team, and then it keeps this constant cycle going. To me, G2 does the exact same thing. Kronovi is Garrett, and you have Rizzo and JNaps as Jacob and Fireburner. It's the exact same concept. Kronovi is phenomenal mechanically. He sits back, he surveys the field, he's watching all this stuff. Jazzo, I'm glad you're confident in your team, man. You should be. Yeah, so you have Kronovi back on defense, sitting there, surveying, making touches, buying his team time, making stuff that only people who are truly insane mechanically can do, while it allows and enables Kronovi to just play passive, sit back, enjoy it, while Rizzo and JNaps will move up, apply that aggression, do that same two-man rotation where they're playing overly aggressive and not rotating 100%, like they're doubling back and stuff at the midfield, because they can. It just is there to keep that constant pressure and not allow this other team to move and breathe, and they get suffocated, right? So all that kind of stuff goes down. It applies this constant pressure, and then in situations, things work out. The issue with this kind of style of play is that if things don't go according to plan, everything falls in suit, and if one person falls out of line or makes a mistake, it gets punished heavily, and it's a huge domino effect, and things break apart. And the issue is NRG stays composed really, really well. Their rotations stay clean even though they're under pressure, even though I feel G2 is more mechanically sound. I think all the players are a little bit more talented if we line all them up against NRG. The difference, though, is I don't think Kronovi has fully committed to playing that role. And he did at Dreamhack this weekend, and he did a really good job, and I give huge shout-outs to Kronovi for sticking to play a little bit more defensive, because he's been playing the offensive carry for 10 years, and it's really hard to break out of, right? It's really, really difficult to break out of that. And that's where their problems rely on. And it's not to call out Kronovi, because it's you always revert back to what is natural when you're under pressure. And it forces Rizzo to play defense, and I don't think that's where Rizzo belongs. He should be up more. So when that situation occurs, I feel Kronovi forces himself to make plays happen because he feels he has to pick up the slack, and they double commit on a lot of things, which leaves other things open, and then they get scored on. And when Kronovi doesn't rely on his teammates to move up and trust himself back on defense, and he forces himself to break that rotation per se, things fall apart and it breaks. Yeah, Jazzo, I'm down. I'm always down to talk Rocket League, man. Hit me up on Twitter or something, and we can set up some time. But yeah, to me, they're the exact same team in their style of play. I just feel once Kronovi settles in his position, what gives G2 the edge is they play in a sense to where they make things happen that you simply cannot react to. They will make passes in field or inside the field or in the middle of the pitch that you physically cannot react to. You just have to preemptively jump, which goes and back to our original thing we were talking with Turbo, concept that you see from soccer. In like penalty kicks, goalies just guess based upon footwork and reading the player, doing their homework. They preemptively jump to corners because it's the only way you can make saves. And that's going to be the only way that you can stop G2 from making some of these shots. And that's what makes G2 so damn good, is some of these pass plays that they make and some of the things that they do, you simply cannot defend. It's too quick. But it's because G2 has this expectation that their player is already going to be there before he's in that position. It is hitting him in stride, and it's the perfect one-touch that we see in stuff like hockey. And that's why Rocket League, I think, is so fucking cool, is because it's a mixture of both Rocket League in the sense of soccer as well as hockey in the same sport. It's unbelievable. The issue is like I was stating earlier, if one of those things falls out of line, everything falls apart and you give away possession. And that's what G2 has done so well, is they do a really, really good job at like making stuff happen that shouldn't, I guess. It's pretty crazy. It's unbelievable. It's really cool play. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But G2 and NRG are very, very similar in their style of play. I think G2 just has the edge in mechanics and the ability to make plays happen that you can't react to because it's too quick. But I give NRG the consistency when it comes to pressure so far. NRG showed that they can play better Because I mean, you look at their history when they play each other in tournaments, like the Beyond Gaming, Brisk, and stuff like that. I think G2 actually has the edge in their series. It's just it depends on what G2 shows up. So it'll be interesting. But hopefully that makes sense.